Hello, everybody. Yes, do I sound pretty good to you back in the back? Yeah, I think so. Okay, so hello everybody. My name is Jeffrey Palmer. I'm your sociology faculty from NSC. Thank you so much for being here with me for MLTV 2023. This is the 18th annual MLTV experience at North Seattle College, and we're bringing things back to more in-person experiences, whereas the last 3 years we've been, in kind of like a pandemic online format. So I really want to welcome you to be here with me today. Today's experience is all about our students and our colleagues from our community taking what they've learned, the knowledge that they've earned, and turning that into something visible that you and me can see. And so I hope you're excited to see everything that people have brought to our community today. I took a quick look around, a little foreshadowing for you. There's a lot of stuff going on in our auditorium here that I don't understand at all. So I'm going to be learning a lot about it. I've already talked to some of the folks that put the posters together. They have some excellent things they want to teach us. And so I'm really looking forward to our experience together today. I know that the next thing that I'm going to be sharing with you here is a presentation by our yoga instructor and instructor of many other disciplines, Trish Root. Trish Root's class is here to give us a demonstration of all of the yoga that they've learned over the last few months. So I'm really excited for this. Is Trish's class ready to go? I think we might be nearing our readiness. Oh, it looks like we are ready to go. I hope you're excited with me, everybody. Let's go ahead and turn our attention to the wonderful yoga stylings of Trish Root's yoga class. Thank you so much. Maybe applaud from where you are at home. Let's take a look.
Everything's facing the same direction. Pyramid pose. You decide how far down your upper body wants to go this morning. Feel free to add arms back or side or forward. If your arms are out, I invite you to bring them in. Let's bend that front knee. Come on up. And here's your warrior 3 or half moon. Warrior 3 or open hip half moon. Nice and wide. That right foot pointed off to the side, left foot side in. Bring our arms back out. Knees are straight on this one. Triangle.
Wasn't that impressive? I mean, I don't know about y'all, but I've tried a lot of those. I don't know about y'all, but I've tried a lot of those at-home yoga videos, and I know that what I produce is nowhere near as good as what we've seen from Trish's yoga class, because it does kind of seem like there's something magical about having somebody with you when you're learning these new skills. And you can see that represented for you visually when people get together and show you what they can do. So before I forget, I want to make sure to say a couple of thank yous to all of the people that have made this event possible, MLTV, the 18th annual version. And so I want to make sure to shout out to Trish Root again. Not only did Trish teach that yoga class, but Trish has been leading the charge here for MLTV. I also want to say thank you to the person behind our camera here, Jim Jewell. Thank you so much for all the work that you're Tarker. Dan Tarker has been overseeing this process. I want to say thank you to all of our incredible faculty. Here today we have Ann Murkowski, we have Heather Price, we have Tracy Furatani, we'll have other faculty joining us. And most importantly, a big thank you to all of our students and community members that have really put this program together from the ground up. And so thank you everybody for making our community what it is. We wouldn't be who we are without you. And so I think the next thing that we'd like to do is to go around and show you some of the projects that we've been working on here at North Seattle College. And so maybe you can join me as we move in this direction towards some of our amazing work. The first person that we're going to be talking to it did some really interesting research on electricity and different ways of generating that stuff. And I don't know about you, but I'm not really an electrician. I don't know a lot about electrical theory or the way that things work. And so I've already learned a lot from this individual. And so we're going right over here, Jim. Here we go. And I'll be passing this mic to you. Would you please introduce yourself? And we have a second mic. Ooh, a second mic for you. Is this on, Jim? Is this? Oh, it is. Okay. And so would you please introduce yourself? What's your name?
My name is Abel Shadeen. I'm working on a project that takes stress and turns it into electricity. Basically, these piezoelectric ceramics have a property, the piezoelectric effect, which allows it to couple its mechanical and its electrical properties. What that means is that when you hit it, you'll get some sort of voltage across it, and when you apply a voltage, you could make it move. For this project, we focus on hitting it and getting a voltage, and by hitting it, I mean with repeatedly hitting it with a very low stress device, which is a speaker playing oscillations at 56 hertz. These piezos are small enough to harness or capture the small amount of vibrations that are happening. But in order for this to work in anything, it has to be amplified. The amount of voltage we get from a piezo is very small, so the voltage has to be amplified, and it also has to be converted to a DC circuit, which is what most technology uses. Anything that uses a battery uses a DC circuit. So that's what this circuit does. This circuit allows for a conversion of AC to DC, and it also amplifies the input voltage to a higher output voltage. This is basically it. That's all it really needs. Once you apply any stress to it, it will capture that voltage in these capacitors, and these diodes keep the voltage forward biased, which means it doesn't go back, right? For AC current, we get a sine wave that goes into the negative, or into the positive and into the negative. When we connect these diodes, we only get something that's in the positive. So that's how that works. When I connected it, I was able to get 7 volts DC from this circuit. 7 volts is a lot. Most AA batteries are 1.5 volts. We do have 2-volt batteries, 3 volts and 9 volts. This is at 7 volts. I was able to push it to 11 volts by pushing and pressing on it with my fingers. Um, but because it doesn't, it'll hold the voltage, but it's it doesn't do what it really needs to do, which is holding it and discharging it at a rate that allows for use, right? So the next steps really would be to find a way to keep the keep the voltage releasing at a constant, right? If we have 14 volts and we only need 2 volts, we really want it to only supply 2 volts. This circuit will push all of that 14 volts into whatever it's doing. So there is a lot to figure out with this, but the whole system works. It does harness vibrations and turn it into electrical energy.
Whoa. Whoa! I don't know how many of you joining us in the streaming format knew any of this before Abel started teaching us, but I've learned a lot from Abel in just a few short moments. Maybe you learned a lot too. Hey, Abel, before you took this class this quarter, did you know about piezo's and AC and DC currents?
Yes, I took this class specifically because it allowed me to work on this project. Um, before I started this project, I was working on another one, and for that project, I had bought some batteries, and I realized the first time buying the battery set, I didn't want to buy batteries for that project, so I bought a power supply. Power supplies hook up to a wall, and I knew I didn't want it to stay at a wall. I wanted to be mobile and move it around, so I needed to find something that would give me my power without having to buy um, constantly buying batteries. There were lots of options. There were solar, wind energy, all that. But for my other project, vibrations is what um, would be preferable to use, since there would be a lot of vibrations anyway. And that's when I came upon piezos. This class, the first thing we did in this class was not this. You have to do a, a another kind of project, basically an introductory to the class. But then once I was able to do this, they were really helpful and allowed me to progress a lot in this project. So yeah.
Oh, that's outstanding. And I think I heard you mention a moment ago that piezoelectricity
Right.
might be a sustainable source of
Yeah,
electricity.
it is.
Oh, and we're worrying a lot about how to create more sustainable sources of electricity. And so this project for me is outstanding. Abel, thank you so much for doing the work and for teaching us about it. I'm really curious to see what you do in your future. I think I'll be hearing your name again. Thank you so much, Abel.
Thank you
And
so
here,
much.
I'll take that for you. And enjoy teaching other people about this interesting stuff as we move through the rest of the day. And Jim, thanks for handling all the AV stuff. We need a lot of support to get stuff done, right? How easy is it to do things alone? Not that easy. But we can go this way and check out what some of our other students have been doing. There are so many cool things that you'd only be able to see if you were here in person. So if you want to stop by, come by and visit us. And we're looking for our next participant here. Oh, and what is your name?
I'm Tiffany.
And this will make it easier. Thank you so much. And so say that one more time.
I'm Tiffany.
Oh, Tiffany, nice to meet you. And so Tiffany, yeah, nice to see you too. Tiffany, why don't you tell us a little bit about your project?
Yeah, so we investigated road salt and copper in 2 watersheds here in Washington, the Thornton Creek Urban Watershed and the rural Cedar River Watershed. We did this kind of an inspiration of after the ice storm in December. And road salting is actually fairly new in Seattle, so they've only been doing it since 2008. Before that, they used to lay down sand. So we wanted to know what the watersheds look like, specifically in relation to Pacific salmon, because there's not a lot of research that's been done on Pacific salmon. And previous research on Atlantic salmon has found correlations between high concentrations of chloride, which is like a component of road salt, and copper, increasing their mortality rates, especially with the little baby elvins. So we did find significant levels of chloride. We tested once after during and after the December ice storm, and then in February around like a little bit more moderate storm that wasn't as severe. And we didn't find significant levels of copper, but that would have been at like a more optimal testing time. So we know that chloride is definitely a problem. We need more research on just the effects of road salting, and of course, like in combination with copper. And I do want to point out that this is just like one factor affecting Pacific salmon. There's a lot of things that are impacting them, and they're important. They're an ecological and cultural keystone species.
Yes, and so the people who are joining us at home, I hope that you care about the salmon as much as I care about the salmon. I'm a Northwest native from Seattle, and so the salmon is part of our cultural history here. I think many of us want to know how we can sustain them so they can be around for us and for future generations. And for that reason, research like the research being conducted by Tiff here is outstanding. Tiff, do you know if there are other folks in our local government that are doing similar research, or are you kind of leading the way here?
Yeah, actually, there was someone who came up to us during the UW symposium who has a lab at Washington State University, and he has been investigating in the watersheds or polycyclic hydrocarbon. It's like petroleum byproducts in the water, and he wanted to start looking into road salts. So there are scientists that are like looking at this and wanting to start researching it, but I mean, not enough, you know.
Right, it takes all of us working together to solve the really big problems. And so Tiffany's doing some really great stuff. And did I hear you mention just a moment ago that you were at the UW Undergraduate Research Symposium?
Yes.
Oh my gosh! And so how was that for you?
It was incredible. Yeah, it was amazing to be there with other North students, other UGR students. And yeah, I mean, I felt really good about our projects because a lot of it, mostly it's UW students. So it was an honor to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. And just between you and me and everybody else who's joining us, how did our North Seattle College students do over there at the UW?
Oh, amazing.
Amazingly well. You know, one thing I think is still true is that students that come to North Seattle and other community colleges tend to do as well or better than the folks who've been at the UW all 4 years. Not to cast shade, but I'm proud of our folks here. Tiff, thank you so much. And is there anything else that you want the viewers at home to know about, chloride and salmon in our region?
Yeah, I mean, I would say like a significant thing is that annual runs of Pacific salmon are down. I mean, just like increasingly every year, and they're semelparous, so that means they die after they mate, and they migrate out into saltwater and then come back to freshwater, and they're just such a vital part of the ecosystem, and they're incredibly important to indigenous peoples.
Mhm.
They call them the salmon people. I actually have ancestors that are salmon people. So it's really important. We need salmon. It's not just for like commercial purposes and the economy. It's like so much bigger than that.
Absolutely. And Tiff, thank you so much for all the work that you're doing. Thanks for teaching us about it. I learned a lot from you. And what was that term that you used just a moment ago for organisms that die after they mate? It's
Semelparous. And they're anadromous when they migrate out to saltwater and come back to freshwater to spawn.
Oh my gosh, I'm learning so much here today. Thank you so much, Tiff, for everything that you're doing. I hope that you have a good time sharing your knowledge with everybody else who comes by today.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Happy to run into Tiff today. Oh, and thank you so much. All right, so I think we're going to continue moving along here. Can you believe the quality of the research that we're seeing here today? I just think it's stupendous. And so next up on our list, hello. Would you like to be interviewed for our MLTV experience?
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. And so what is your name?
So my name is Florence, and yeah, I did my research on antibiotic resistance being spread around by geese in Seattle parks.
Oh. Did you say antibiotic resistance being spread around by geese in Seattle parks?
Yes, I did. So I did call this project the Goose Poop Project because I was going around collecting, you can see on my poster here, following around the geese so that I can collect their poop, which, it's a little weird, but somebody needs to do it. And that person's me.
My dog will be happy to help you. I don't think you knew about this research project yet.
I don't know. I'm sure he'd love to help. I don't know how helpful he'd be because it is a delicate procedure.
Not helpful.
Surprisingly. But so I was interested to in the topic of antibiotic resistance because there's, this is a concern of increasing importance because of overprescription of antibiotics in hospitals as well as use of antibiotics in animal farming operations. So I found some research that in a lot of parts of the world, those antibiotic-resistant bacteria are actually getting into the wildlife, and then especially if they're migratory, they spread it to different regions.
Whoa, we're all interconnected. Whoa. Whoa, I love the demonstration of this via science, though. That's really cool. Florence, continue.
Yeah, so I was curious about whether this was happening in Seattle as well. So I, again, followed the geese around until I could get some poop from them. It's very important that it's fresh, apparently, according to the papers I looked at. And then I isolated coliform bacteria from from the poops. So coliform bacteria, everyone's heard of E. coli. There are other bacteria that are similar. They're gram-negative rods that ferment lactose.
Say that again.
Gram-negative rods that ferment lactose. So then I tested them for antibiotic resistance by basically just sort of spreading them around on a plate and putting these discs with antibiotics on them. And as a comparison, I isolated similar bacteria from the soil in areas where there were no geese. And it turned out that, yes, the bacteria from the geese had more antibiotic resistance than the bacteria from the soils in areas where there were no geese.
Whoa. So the geese, is it correct to say the geese are like a vector?
Potentially. I did not get the chance to test soil in areas where the geese were just because of some time and materials constraints. So, but they are potentially a vector. So.
Whoa. I think it's really cool. What I just heard Florence do is put some scope conditions around how much she can generalize the findings from this study to our general understanding about the relationship between, I guess what's the proper term here? Not livestock, but fowl.
Yeah, livestock and like wildlife, waterfowl, yeah.
Yeah, and their resistances to antibiotics. That's some fascinating stuff. I knew nothing about this before we talked this morning. Florence, thank you so much for telling me and for teaching me. And what else do you want people to know about this interesting research?
Let's see, what do I want people to know? So I guess what I want people to know is like there's a good reason to believe that this antibiotic resistance, that some of it might be from some of that use of antibiotics in livestock. So you should be keeping an eye on legislation to improve conditions for livestock, both for animal welfare reasons and also because you don't want to get sick with antibiotic-resistant E. coli.
That's a really good point. And, when I'm at the grocery store, I don't even check for antibiotics in the stuff that I buy. Maybe I should start thinking about that.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, Florence, thank you so much for that practical tip. We should be concerned about what we put in our bodies. Florence, thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, wow, really amazing stuff that our students are doing here at North Seattle College. This is really cool. And this photo, like, come on, that is a great, I don't know if you can see that at home. But this is like a fantastic, photo for job applications. Look at that. I mean, so scientific. That is wonderful. I love the jacket and come on, the materials are so good, Florence. Thank you so much for your time today and for teaching me.
Yeah, thank you for letting me speak today.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm the lucky one. So, Florence, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, and I hope you enjoy sharing your knowledge with everybody else that comes to visit you today. Oh, my gosh. Can you believe what's happening over here? This is amazing. Let's say goodbye to Florence for now, although please do feel free to come by if you're at home right now. You can stop by the Roy Flores Wellness Center. Come up to the gym and come see what's happening up here at Making Learning and Teaching Visible 2023. You'll be able to see me, your sociology faculty, Jeff Palmer. You might also be able to see a couple of really important individuals here. We're coming around, and maybe we can turn this just a little bit towards Michael. Michael, thank you so much for being here and helping everybody get set up with our Making Learning and Teaching Visible. I also want to give a shout out down here to Willa. Willa, thank you so much for everything that you're doing to get our Making Learning and Teaching Visible process booming. Willa works in the library. Librarians are sure important. Yes, absolutely. And then we'll keep on coming around. Willa and Michael have a lot of stuff to do as they're getting people wrapped in. I also saw another couple of folks wander in here, which is fantastic. I think we have Dan Tarker over here. And maybe another dean. Maybe is it Melanie? Melina, thank you so much. And so here we have Dan Tarker. Dan Tarker's been overseeing our Making Learning and Teaching Visible process probably since we began working on it this year.
Trish Root has really done a fantastic job pulling everything together. It's a very complex process, and really Trish has done an amazing job. So kudos to Trish Root for pulling together a very complex event.
Kudos to Trish Root, absolutely. And then, Melina, do you want to say anything before we go around and keep talking with it?
Really excited to come here and see what's going on and, engage in what it means to make teaching and learning visible. So
thank you so much for coming by. And anybody at home, if you want to come by, come and join us. We have cool people here. But let's continue cycling around to see what our students have done, to take what they have learned, the knowledge they have earned, and to make it visual for us so we can understand it a little bit better. Should we talk to somebody over here? Are you comfortable being interviewed for our MLTV experience? Fantastic. And so here's a microphone for you. Why don't we begin with having you introduce yourselves?
I am Dylan Coughlin.
We have Dylan.
I'm Fatima Mohammed.
Say it one more time.
Fatima Mohammed.
Fatima, yeah, nice to meet you. And why don't you tell us a little bit about your project here?
So we had two separate blocks made of a clear plastic, and we were trying to measure the differences of the indices of refraction between them as a method of determining what these blocks are made of specifically.
Oh, really cool.
Oftentimes it's difficult to tell the different kinds of clear plastic from each other, and the index of refraction can be used as a kind of fingerprint for those kinds of things.
Oh. That sounds really cool. You know, it reminds me a little bit of the way that some of the astronomers determine the composition of stars that are many, many millions of light years away. But here we're looking at things we can hold in our hands, our plastics. And I don't know about you, before you started this research experience, I come into contact with a lot of plastic, it turns out. I usually can't figure out which type of plastic it is, whether I should recycle it. You know, there are so many questions. And so tell us a little bit more about the way that you use refraction to tell the difference between two different types of plastic.
Well, so the basis of the whole experiment is Snell's law, which is shown right here.
Snell's law.
What it tells you is that there is a direct relationship between the angle of incidence of a beam of light and the angle it's refracted out at the end of that plastic.
Oh.
And that's dependent on the indices of refraction
Okay.
of the two materials, the one it's refracting from and the one it's refracting into.
Okay.
So if you can measure those angles, directly or indirectly, you can figure out what those indices are and thus what the materials are.
Oh, really interesting stuff. And so what types of plastic were you using in your research?
Well, after we finished the experiment, we found out that we were working with acrylic and poly...
I don't know the exact name, but it's the same material that is made out of safety glasses. You probably know the name.
Oh, really interesting. We have contributions from over here. Somebody knows the name of the plastic from the safety glasses.
Yes, it's polymethyl methacrylate.
Whoa, what?
Yeah.
Can you say that one more time?
Oh, of course. Polymethyl methacrylate, or PMMA.
Whoa, so I'm learning a lot here today, and I think I just learned a little bit about PMMA. I don't know if I can give you the full name. I'm going to lean on my colleagues over here. Thank you so much. That's impressive. And so when we're thinking about the plastics and refraction, is there anything else you want the viewers at home to know about this research that you've done? We'll go to Dylan.
Well, for part of this experiment, we found that it was actually easier to not measure that angle directly, like it is in the case with a lot of experiments like this. So we have shown off here the actual experiment we did, at least for block A, where we were able to see the laser light a lot more clearly. Well, what happened is we shined the light through this block, which made it refract off a certain distance, and we could measure this distance rather than the angle directly. So to much more accurately calculate that angle.
Oh, I really like this because there's a lot of things that are better or easier to measure if we measure things that are related to the original thing as opposed to the thing itself. And so this is another example of that. That's really cool, Dylan. And remind me about your name one more time. Fatima, wow, this is really cool stuff. I don't know how many of you at home wonder about which type of plastic it is you're holding in your hand, but now we know there's a method that we could use, and we might have to learn more about that method. I don't know as much as Dylan and Fatima know, and at the same time, wow, this is some really cool stuff that you're doing. Thank you so much for telling us a little bit about your research, and I'm wishing you all the best for a bright future. Lasers or no lasers, bright regardless, okay? Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Hope more people come by to learn from you today. Wow, you know, I'm having a good time. I don't know if you can tell. I think next up, we're learning a little bit about springs. I've noticed there are a lot of projects about springs this quarter. Is there a reason for that? Does it have anything to do with the season?
So it's going to be partly because of the class that we're taking, because this all these tables here are with Physics 223 with Furutani Tracy. We're specifically testing these because we're studying Hooke's law.
Oh.
And Hooke's law states that the effective spring constant of two springs is going to be the sum of those two springs in a system is going to be the sum of those two springs. Essentially, their K value, which is like how much they'll stretch given a certain amount of force. And we were testing it in a hanging system. So we got our springs, we tested them individually, so they're independent systems, so gravity's pulling them individually.
Okay.
And then we also took them and put them into a coupled system so that gravity is acting on them together.
Oh.
And what we found is that Hooke's law does not follow.
Oh.
Instead of it being the sum of the two springs, it was actually the reciprocal of the sum of those two springs is equivalent to the reciprocal of the system itself.
Oh, so that's really interesting. I'm not sure if I understood all of it, but I think I have one question here. So when we're comparing the two springs side by side versus the two springs kind of connected together, it might be hard to see at home. But the question I have is, does this hanging mass, is it made to be equivalent between these two different operations here? Is it the same weight essentially?
Yeah, so we tested multiple weights across them. We've got our data sheets here with
Ooh,
what exactly
data!
with exactly what weights were used, and they are exact between the multiple systems there. But yes, we tested between 0.5 kilograms all the way up to, I believe, 0.2 kilograms.
Whoa, so this is really cool stuff. And the result here was that we have rejected the hypothesis that Hooke's law would be in operation for this system of springs. Rejecting hypotheses is how science moves forward. You've moved us forward. Thank you so much. And I'm sorry I didn't begin with your name. What's your name?
Oh, I apologize. My name is Jennifer Hines. I also had two colleagues I was working with, but who were not able to come today, unfortunately. Brielle Heron and Henry Fian, both from North Seattle College.
Oh, wow. And Jennifer, thank you so much. You have nothing to apologize for. You were answering my questions. I just didn't guide you well. But Jennifer, thank you so much. And is there anything else that you want our viewers at home to know about springs and spring systems based on the research you've done?
I'm sorry, no.
Oh, no, that's okay. That's fantastic. It's wonderful when you've encapsulated everything that you wanted to in a short period of time. That actually takes a lot of skill, Jennifer. I respect you. And I'm learning so much about springs and things. So thank you so much for your time. And thank you for teaching me. I really appreciate that. I don't know if you know, but I like to learn. You're making my day wonderful. You're making my day wonderful. Actually, everybody here is making my day wonderful. Appreciate all of you. Okay, but I think we're going to move forward to our next event. So thank you, Jennifer, and let's keep going this way. I saw that we have just a little bit of time left, so let's do the best that we can with the time that we have. And so if we're sliding this way, we're seeing people talking about things that they've learned about springs and things, which I think is wonderful. Oh, do you want to tell us about it? I didn't want to interrupt you when you were talking with another colleague, but...
Okay.
Sorry, I did scare them away. I'm sorry, that was me.
That's all right.
Sorry about that.
So our poster is comparing the spring constants of springs by themselves versus when they're coupled together.
Yes.
Yeah, so we have two different hypotheses. We had our first, which is that the spring constants just added together, but we found that that was like totally not the case at all. It's more with this equation where they just have a different relationship.
Ooh,
Yeah.
and so is this? Does this have anything to do with Hooke's hypothesis or Hooke's law?
Yeah, it does. So that's how
Oh.
that's how you find spring constants, and so everything is sort of related to that.
Oh, so this is really cool. So I just learned about Hooke's law just a moment ago, and now because I've learned from another one of our colleagues, I'm able to have a better conversation with our researcher here. And what is your name? I'm sorry.
Oh, Bruce.
Bruce, nice to meet you, Bruce. And thanks for telling us about your work here on Hooke's law. And so I think the last person we talked about Hooke's law rejected the hypothesis. Did you also reject the hypothesis?
Yeah, we also did, because our findings were totally different. We actually we agree more with what they said as well. So.
Oh, this is really cool because, one of the things that makes science so good is that we're interested in replicating findings. And that's exactly what our students here at North Seattle College have done. Replicating findings that reject Hooke's hypothesis, or is it a
law?
Oh my gosh, they rejected a law! That is fantastic!
We have a lot of limitations on our experiments.
Ooh!
You gotta think about, like, a lot of what we do is not perfect, like the springs that we have and the calculations we have and the methods for measuring things. So you gotta think about that too, that like we might have messed up.
Oh, I really like that too. I mean, one of the other hallmarks of science is that we do our best to try to make sure that we communicate the limitations on our work so that people who read our work and try to replicate it in the future know exactly what we did. Bruce, it sounds like you and your team did a fantastic job.
Thank you. Yeah, we tried to, put stuff together well.
Oh, I really dig it. And who else is on your team?
That's my team member over there, Ian.
Hey, Ian.
And then got my other two team members are over there. They were looking at other posters.
Hi, other team members.
They're over there.
All right, and so thank you so much for sharing what you've learned with us today.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you want the viewers at home to know about Hooke's law or the research process or anything that you've learned?
Just, make sure you check all your everything that you're doing. Make sure that you haven't checked that you've messed up in what you're measuring, and make sure to like and subscribe to this guy right here.
Thank you so much, Bruce. Really appreciate you. I love the emphasis on double checking. If there's one thing that is true in most things that are really important, you want to make sure to double check at least a couple times. Is that still double checking or is that triple checking? I'm not sure. But we're moving on. I think we are talking a lot about springs and things at this MLTV. And how about we talk to another couple of researchers here about what they've learned about springs and things. And so who wants the microphone? Oh, yes. And would you please introduce yourself? What's your name?
Hi, I'm Cole.
Cole, nice to meet you, Cole. And why don't you tell us a little bit about your research here?
Well, we were trying to figure out, you have two springs, as I'm sure you heard from these previous posters. Well, if they're in series, is it stronger than one spring, or is it weaker? We're like, well, it seems like it should be stronger. There's 2 springs, twice as stiff, but as it turns out, it is quite the opposite. Not only are they weaker, it's weaker than any one spring if you have 2 in series.
Oh, and so what I'm picking up on here is that we've done a good job of replicating this question. And so this deals with Hooke's Law.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I've learned stuff today. Before I came around and I talked to these researchers before our program started, I didn't know about Hooke's Law at the time, and so I had no idea what was going on. But I'm learning things, and that is partially because of you all. Thank you so much for teaching me. And so if we're thinking about these springs here, I mean, when might this pop up in an application in real life?
Well, if you're in engineering, I think you'll find out that springs are a useful thing in all sorts of scenarios. And you know, if you ever are like, I don't have a spring that's quite the stiffness I need, you might combine the springs in different ways so you can get the right stiffness of spring for whatever device you're trying to design.
Right. But now we know, as a result of the research that has replicated this question about Hooke's Law, we know that it's not a good idea to put those 2 springs together in sequence.
Yes.
Okay, and like never a good idea.
Well, unless you want a weak spring, who knows?
Oh, so if you want a weak spring, we have a pathway for you.
Yes.
Oh, this is fantastic. Well, hey, thank you so much. I really appreciate the work that you're doing. Is there anything else you want the viewers at home to know about your work or the research process in general?
I think that's it.
Oh, Cole, thank you so much. And what was your colleague's name?
I'm Jake.
Jake and Cole, thank you so much for the test of Hooke's Law. Really appreciate it. Isn't it interesting to find out that sometimes the laws that we are familiar with are not correct or not supported all the time?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Do you know of any other scientific laws that we should reject in our minds?
Well, let me just make it clear. We're not rejecting Hooke's Law. We are rejecting what common sense might tell you about Hooke's Law.
That's a very important clarification, especially for someone like me that knows nothing about Hooke's Law. So thank you so much. I'm going to dial back my skepticism just a little bit. Cole, thank you so much, and really appreciate you. It was Jake. Yes, nice to meet you, Jake. Thanks a lot for everything that you're doing for our community, for doing the research that is making your knowledge sharper and your skills sharper, and for sharing that with everybody here. I can't tell you how much I am appreciative of you both.
Well, thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And here, I'll take that microphone from you, and I hope that other people stop by to learn from you as I've learned from you. I really enjoy learning, and this is one of the best places to do it. I can't tell you, sometimes things are abstract and hard to wrap our minds around. But as soon as we have a visual, sometimes that visual makes those abstract concepts much more clear. And so, here's another example of the spring series. All right, everybody, so we're going to go ahead and retool ourselves a little bit. We're going to be zooming away in this direction because we're a little short on time. The research over here, fantastic. What was your name again? It was Dylan, right? Dylan does fantastic research. We're thinking about springs and things. Does this have anything to do with Hooke's Law? Oh, it does. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not giving you a microphone. Here's a microphone for you. I didn't give Dylan a microphone. This is Dylan doing some research on Hooke's Law. And so will you tell us a little bit about your research here?
So this poster is about whether or not 2 springs added in series like this would increase their stiffness versus when they're separate. And what we found, our hypothesis was that when springs added in series, their spring constants of the individual springs get added together. And if you know Hooke's Law states that the force from the spring when you pull on it is equal to the amount you pull on it multiplied by a constant, which is called the spring constant. And what we found was that our hypothesis was false. The spring constants of 2 springs do not add together, meaning that the springs do not get stiffer when you add them in series. Instead, if the spring gets looser when you add them in series, and the formula which dictates that was derived down on here, but it's a bit, how do I put it into words? It's basically, instead, the new spring constant is the sum of the reciprocals of the other two spring constants, and it's a reciprocal of that sum.
Yes.
I can't communicate that to make sense to
Hey.
Someone who doesn't know what Hooke's law is, but
Yeah. Yeah, Dylan's pointing out something very important, and that is sometimes the more we learn about a subject, the more we need some sort of academic jargon or some sort of terminology that can communicate really complex ideas very quickly. And so, Dylan, you understand that terminology. I don't. But I could learn it over time, and you're an excellent teacher. Dylan, thank you so much. And so it seems like there have been many projects that have been evaluating Hooke's law with a focus on this hypothesis, and it seems like all of our colleagues here have reached the same conclusion.
yeah, I believe so.
Oh, that's wonderful. Replicability is a hallmark of science, and when we see that we're able to replicate things over and over again, our trust in those concepts elevates. It becomes greater. So, Dylan, thank you so much for the work that you've done. Really appreciate you. Thanks for teaching me, and I hope that you have an experience or an opportunity to teach other people as they come through our event today. Dylan, thank you so much. And let's go ahead and move forward, and I think we only have a few minutes left, which is unfortunate. I'm having such a good time with you all, I'd probably just want to hang out all day. But as we're moving through, I think maybe we have just a few moments we can use to talk with maybe Trish Root is available to give us a couple of comments about the first portion of our MLTV experience. Trish, I'm coming to you. I don't know, do you want to give us a couple of comments about how things have worked for you this year with our MLTV experience?
Sure, I wasn't expecting this, but hi everyone.
Oh, is it on? It's on. Yep.
All right, right up to my mouth. We'll do that. So what has been interesting about MLTV this year is this is our 18th annual event, celebration of learning and teaching here at North Seattle College. And what I've really appreciated is an opportunity to be in person, which we haven't done since 2019. It's been a while. But we've still been able to embrace the virtual aspect, and thanks to Jim Jewell behind the camera, the streaming aspect as well. So it's been a mix of modalities for 2023.
Yeah, and if there's one thing that community colleges are really good at, it's at being adaptable and nimble. And I think we've seen that skill or that quality on display in full force over the last few years. And so, Trish, I'm curious, I've learned so much from our students and our colleagues here today. I'm curious about what other opportunities people might have to learn more during this MLTV series. What are some other things that people might be able to tune into?
So tuning in from this point on, we have a panel coming up at 11 a.m. in person in the Student Learning Seminar Room, Student Learning Center Seminar Room. And then following that, another HDC Human Development course panel. The first one is a bunch of people who are coming in to talk about their experience at the National Conference of Race and Ethnicity.
Ooh, is that NCORE?
Yes, NCORE.
Oh.
And then the second one is our students of Jenny Maus, our counselor Jenny Mao, who will be talking about integrating self in academic and career success.
Oh, that sounds kind of important.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so.
There might be things that we can learn from that panel. And you said that panel is happening when?
It is happening at 11,
Oh.
and the second one on integrating self in academic success and career success is at 12.
Wow, okay, so we have events coming up in just the very near
Yes,
future,
and
and
we
it's
need
time
to
for us to say goodbye. And so thank you for joining us today. I hope that you enjoyed learning from our students and our colleagues as much as I did. I've been having a blast, and so if you're doing the same, your day's off to a good start. And one more thank you to Trish Root over here, integral in the planning process and getting everybody excited and interested in MLTV 2023. And one more time, this is Jeff Palmer, your sociology faculty. I've really enjoyed being here with you today, and I'm going to bid you adieu until the next time that our paths cross. Goodbye, everybody, and thanks again.
Thank you.